fear and also uncertainty. These two things are the biggest challenges every human being is going to face. The question is, are you living your life based on fear or not? And this fear is not helpful because it restricts you. It restricts your ability to expand the mind. Fear is restricting you to discover because fear makes you to stay inside the comfort zone. But why do we call something the comfort zone? It's because we have spent time already inside that zone that we know. You know everything about it inside there already. You have seen it, you have experienced all of it. That's why everything has become comfortable to you. So as long as you're comfortable, it means you are not leaving the things that you know. This existence is too big. It's 0.1% of knowing, it's 99% of not knowing. If you want to discover what is the 99.9%, it means you need to leave the space of knowing, you need to leave the space of comfort. You need to go into the uncertainty. And this is that fearful part.
Spread love, man.
Welcome to another deep dive. Our listeners have been grappling with some pretty big questions about fear and fulfillment and sent us this really thought-provoking excerpt from Master Shi Heng Yi to kind of unpack it all.
It is fascinating stuff, right? Like how he manages to tie all these seemingly separate ideas together, you know, fear and uncertainty, and even that like elusive search for satisfaction. How do those things all connect?
He starts off by talking about the comfort zone, but not in the way that we typically think about it.
Right. Not just like comfy slippers and a warm blanket.
Exactly. It's not about like being cozy. It's about being limited by what we already know.
It's almost like he's saying our comfort zone is just this tiny little island.
Yeah.
You know, in this huge, vast ocean of possibilities. And if we cling to that island too tightly, we're missing out on like 99.9% of the experience.
That's such a good analogy. And it reminds me of that story you told me about being afraid to travel solo.
It was totally transformative. Like that trip really made me realize how much I was limiting myself just by, you know, assuming I couldn't handle something.
Yeah.
Turns out I was way more capable than I thought.
Exactly. And that seems to be Master Shi Heng Yi's point too, right? Like he doesn't say to just like leap into the abyss of the unknown,
right,
but to gradually expand that comfort zone little by little.
He used the analogy of training for a marathon.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't just start by running 26 miles.
Right.
You'd build up to it. And he's suggesting we kind of do the same thing with fear. You know, we can train ourselves to be more comfortable with that uncertain.
And this ties into that really powerful idea that he brings up about how we enter the world complete, you know, whole, without this sense of lack. But then something happens along the way.
It's like we start picking up on all these messages from society, you know, about what we should be and what we should have. And suddenly we're on this treadmill of desire.
Yeah.
Constantly chasing after things we think will make us feel complete.
It's like we've outsourced our sense of satisfaction to these external things, right? Possessions, achievements, status. And Master Shi Heng Yi even uses that example that you mentioned from your own notes, like constantly upgrading your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Always needing the latest model.
Yeah, I mean, you felt like you needed it, but then...
And then what?
The satisfaction was always so fleeting. Like I'd get the new phone and for a few days it'd be great, but then I'd just see the next model advertised and start the whole cycle over again. It's like that feeling of enough never really arrived, you know?
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into that trap, right? Especially in a world that's constantly telling us we need more, more, more. And Master Shi Heng Yi really hits the nail on the head when he talks about this, you know, this conditional satisfaction, this idea that our happiness is dependent on these external factors.
Yeah, it makes me think about like the pandemic, you know, how jarring it was for so many people when those external things they relied on for happiness, you know, travel, social gatherings, even work were suddenly taken away.
It's like their whole sense of well-being was built on this foundation of sand.
Totally.
And Master Shi Heng Yi seems to be advocating for building that foundation on something much more stable.
Yeah.
A sense of inner fullness that isn't so easily shaken by those outside circumstances.
He's not saying we shouldn't enjoy those external things, but rather that we shouldn't become dependent on them for our happiness. He uses this great example of like a luxury car.
Yeah.
You know, you can enjoy driving it, but your whole sense of self-worth shouldn't be tied to whether or not you own it.
It's a subtle but important distinction, right? Like, it's okay to have goals and desires, but the problem arises when we become so attached to them that our happiness hinges on their fulfillment.
He challenges us to ask ourselves, like, where in my life am I clinging too tightly? Where am I outsourcing my happiness to things I can't control? And thinking about that in my own life, I realize I've sometimes put too much emphasis on
External validation, that need for approval from others.
Exactly.
I think we all struggle with that to some degree.
Absolutely.
It's like we've been conditioned to seek it out.
Absolutely. And Master Shi Heng Yi offers some really practical antidotes to that.
Yeah.
Things like mindfulness practices, gratitude exercises, connecting with nature. He's encouraging us to shift our focus inward, to cultivate a sense of peace and contentment that comes from within, rather than constantly seeking it outside ourselves.
This whole idea of refining the mind and body really stood out to me in his teachings. And it's not just about like meditation and spiritual practice.
Right.
It's about cultivating a sense of awareness and appreciation for ourselves.
Totally.
Both physically and mentally.
He seems to be emphasizing that our well-being is holistic.
Yeah.
Taking care of our physical health through things like movement and nourishing food is just as important as tending to our mental and emotional well-being.
It's about recognizing that we're not just minds floating around in a vacuum. We're embodied beings.
Yeah.
And we need to honor that connection between our physical and mental states.
He even talks about waking up with a sense of peace and contentment. Rather than starting the day with that conflict and dissatisfaction.
Right.
It's about setting a positive tone from the very beginning.
It's like choosing to focus on what we have rather than dwelling on what we lack. And I think that's where the power of gratitude comes in.
Yeah.
Such a simple practice, but it can really shift our perspective.
It's funny. For years, I thought gratitude was just about being thankful.
Right.
But Master Shi Heng Yi's teachings have helped me see it as something much deeper. It's about cultivating an awareness of the abundance that already exists in our lives,
Yeah.
even amidst challenges.
He seems to be urging us to challenge those limiting beliefs, those stories we tell ourselves that keep us feeling stuck and unhappy. And he's not saying we should ignore our problems,
Right.
but rather that we should approach them with a different mindset.
It's about asking ourselves, is this belief serving me? Is it even true?
Yeah.
And then choosing to focus on thoughts and beliefs that empower us, that help us move forward.
I love that he emphasizes that this is a continuous process, a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
It's not about reaching some end goal of perfect happiness, but rather about embracing the ups and downs, the learning and growth that come with being human. It feels like he's really giving us permission, to embrace the messiness of life.
Yeah.
To see those challenges as opportunities for growth rather than setbacks.
He doesn't offer a one-size-fits-all solution, which I think is really refreshing.
Yeah.
Instead, he encourages us to experiment, to find what works for us as individuals.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a daily meditation practice or keeping a gratitude journal or spending time in nature. It's about finding those things that nourish our minds and bodies and help us connect to that inner source of well-being.
I'm curious, what are some of the things that you've incorporated into your own life based on Master Shi Heng Yi's teachings? What's resonated most with you?
Honestly, it's been that emphasis on taking responsibility. It's so easy to get caught up in blaming others or feeling like a victim of our circumstances. But Master Shi Heng Yi reminds us that we have agency, that we have the power to choose how we respond to life's challenges.
Yeah.
That's been a game changer for me.
It's about shifting from a mindset of this is happening to me to how can I learn and grow from this? And it sounds like you found some really practical ways to apply that shift in your daily life.
Little things, really.
Yeah.
Like starting my day with a few minutes of mindful breathing instead of immediately checking my phone. Or making a conscious effort to notice the good things throughout the day.
Yeah.
Even small things like a delicious cup of coffee or a beautiful sunset.
It's about cultivating those moments of awareness and appreciation, right?
Absolutely.
It reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about how we often get so caught up in chasing the next thing that we forget to appreciate what we already have.
It's so true. It's like we're constantly striving for some future state of happiness while overlooking the beauty and joy that's available to us right now.
Yeah.
In this present moment.
And that seems to be at the heart of Master Shi Heng Yi's message, right? Finding that sense of contentment and fulfillment, not in some distant future, but right here, right now.
It's about recognizing that true happiness isn't something we acquire. It's something we cultivate. It's an ongoing practice, a way of being in the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the question that naturally arises is, what small step can you take today to embody these teachings? What tiny shift can you make to move towards a life of greater peace, purpose, and fulfillment?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything drastic. Maybe it's simply taking a few minutes to sit in silence and connect with your breath,
Yeah.
or expressing gratitude to someone you love, or choosing to approach a challenge with curiosity rather than fear.
Even the smallest actions can create a ripple effect, leading to positive changes in our lives and in the world around us.
And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, moments of clarity and moments of confusion, but the important thing is to keep moving forward, to keep exploring, to keep growing.
We've only just scratched the surface of Master Shi Heng Yi's teachings here today, but hopefully this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and inspiration to continue on your own path of self-discovery.
Yeah, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep embracing the incredible potential that lies within you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.